We are born makers. We move what we're learning from our heads to our hearts through our hands. Because we're not here to be average. We're here to be awesome. And if it was easy, everyone would do it. Rock stars, this is episode 14 of Stuck on Sawdust. Let's get to it. What's up, you badass rock stars? We're diving right in. If you're new to the channel, no worries, you'll catch right up. My name's Daniel, and this is Bearded Viking Woodworks, and I scour social media sites like these, searching for the most profitable, the most unique, and the most customizable projects, and bring them back and share with you guys. We're starting today with this badass geometrical shelf. These shelves are a hot seller on Etsy right now, and the profit margins are astronomical and straight up my alley. And we're gonna test them out in this video and see how quick I can sell them and how much I can make. These are 17 inches in height, 10 inches in width, and the shelf is 4 inches deep. So you know I gotta add my little touch to this design and customize it in my bearded Viking fashion. So meet me at the table saw. Hey guys, so I've got this piece of cherry left over from an old table build that I never finished up, and it just sat in my shop for like 3 years. So I went ahead and dismantled this piece, and I'm gonna rip these pieces down into a 1/2 inch, and I need 4 of them. I'm pretty sure I can get 4 pieces out of this piece. It's 2.5 inches wide. So I should be able to get 4 1/2 inch rips, theoretically. So let's go ahead and set up for a 1/2 inch, and we'll resaw these at a 1/2 inch thick. Right, and we've got exactly a 1/2 inch. So meet me at the miter box. So there are only 2 angles for the frame of this shelf. There's a 30-degree angle and a 60-degree angle. My 12-inch DeWalt goes all the way up to a 60-degree angle. Most 12-inch saws do. However, if yours does not, I'm going to show you a quick tip on how you can get a 60-degree angle if your saw only goes to a 45. Check this out. So what I've done here is I put a couple of pieces of double-sided tape on my miter saw deck, and I'm going to take a 1x4 about 2.5 feet long, or in this case a piece of 3/4 inch plywood, and set it right on top of that double-sided tape, and then just give it a little bit of pressure.
What would you know about pressure?
Now what you want to do is put your saw on a 45-degree angle and make this first cut. Now turn your saw to your opposite 45-degree angle and make another cut. Now turn your saw to 0 degrees. Now your 0 degrees acts as a 45. So if I were to cut this piece right here, that's a 45-degree angle. So we need a 60 on one of these ends. To get that 60, we'll put our saw on a 15-degree angle. 45 plus 15 equals 60. And we'll make this cut nice and slow. And there's your 60. However, I don't have that problem with my saw because it goes to a 60. So that's just a quick tip from Bearded Viking. And you can see that the 60 I cut using my jig lines up perfectly when my saw is turned to a 60. what's up, you badass rock stars? Just want to jump in and say, are you a member yet? And if not, what are you waiting for? You can either join Stuck on Sawdust series, where you get access to my email and you can send me your project ideas, photos, videos, which I'll feature in my episodes on the Stuck on Sawdust series. Or you can join Chisel Champs, where you get access to videos that nobody else gets access to, plus early access to every video, alongside the perks of Stuck on Sawdust. Stuck on Sawdust is $1.99 a month. Chisel Champs is $4.99 a month. Cancel at any time. So if you want to help support the content that I'm creating, become a member today. What are you waiting for? So now that we got that tip out of the way, we're going to go ahead and cut a 60 on all of our pieces. Now let's turn our saw to 30 degrees. So we're gonna make ours long to long 12.5. That's long point of your 60 to long point of your 30. Line up your saw blade with your mark and set yourself up a stop block. This will help you make those repetitive cuts. Make this cut. Remember, let that blade stop all the way before releasing. So let's go ahead and cut our other 3 pieces, and I'll meet you at the assembly table. Let's go ahead and line our pieces up. The 60s are at the top and the bottom, and the 30s come together just like that. You may be asking yourself, well, Daniel, how are we going to fasten this thing together? Well, I'm glad you asked. There's a number of ways you can do this. You can literally just glue it together, and then they got these little cool corner clamps is what they call them, and you can put them on your tips here. However, in this case, I'm going to use my handy dandy Craig jig, and this is just a portable kind. I've got the bigger setup too, but I like the little portable one because it's perfect for projects like this. So I ripped my stock down to a 1/2 inch. So on your bit that comes with your Craig jig, it has these numbers, and you want to make sure to put it right there where it says 1/2 inch. So make sure to set your bit at that 1/2 inch mark. Now you're set up for a 1/2 inch thick stock. Also, on your actual jig piece, you have these numbers here, so make sure that you move it down to a 1/2 inch. So now that we're set up for 1/2 inch stock, we'll go ahead and get these drilled out. So we are going to be using a couple of test pieces because we want to be sure that we got it set up correctly. Take your piece where you're going to be screwing into the next piece and kind of just gauge it with these little walls right here. I'm going to set it about right there and clamp it down with my handy dandy Craig jig clamp, just like so. Now you got these 2 holes here, so we're going to go ahead and shoot our drill right into this first hole here and let our drill bottom out right here. And your hole should look something like that. Now, since I'm working with 1/2 inch stock, I'm going to take an extra bit and just pierce the other one here so I don't split it with my screw. Now we'll take our square head bit and insert our screw. And there you have it. Just like so. You want to glue this piece before you do your Craig screw, just because we're only going to put 1 screw in here because it's so thin. And I'm sure they make thinner screws for the Craig jig. I'm not quite sure, but these are pretty thick considering I'm using 1/2 inch. But there's ways to get around that with the extra bit I got here. So, not to complicate things, but I'm sure they have smaller screws for smaller stock. I was going to use 3/4 stock, but I didn't have enough cherry to get the 3/4 inches I wanted. So we just went with 1/2 inch and seems to work out pretty damn good. So we're going to go ahead with our real pieces and get this thing Craig jigged together, and we'll meet you after we get it put together. All right, I'm going to leave a link to this Craig jig system in the description of this video. So don't worry, it will be down in the description. We're going to go ahead and get this thing sanded down. And this is how your piece should look. I've got a little gap right here for some reason. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to close that up. Gather up some of this sanding dust. And I'll just take a little dab of glue. Go ahead and get that pushed into that gap. Take your dust and sprinkle it over the top. Just like, oh, what's that guy's name? Yeah, Salt Bay. We don't want no happy gappies in our work. And let me introduce y'all to one of my favorite accessories for the shop. That's this bar of, it feels like wax, but it basically cleans your sandpaper. Brand new. I'll leave a link for this in the description as well. This works miracles on the belt sander. There we have it. No more happy gappy. So what I'm going to use for my shelf is this piece of cypress, and I'm going to rip it down to 4 inches. Now if you look at theirs, they have their shelf stop like right at the edge or almost right before the edge. I think I'm going to run mine past just a little bit, maybe 1.5 inches on either side of my frame, and we'll see how that looks. So meet me at the miter saw. So we're going to go ahead and cut a 30-degree angle on this very side here. I left this little square nub right here. I just want to see how that looks. Doesn't look too bad. We're going to go ahead with 1 inch past either side. Our width of our piece is 12.5. So we'll cut this at 14.5. So I'll pull down 1 inch on this side, and I'll make my 30-degree angle right there at that mark. Just like so. So I'm really liking the look of this. And what I might do, they went to the center of their joint. I'm gonna go right below that joint and attach my shelf right there. So let's pull up 10 inches. About to pull up. We're just gonna make a mark right on the edge of this so we know where we need to set it. All right, so we went ahead and we sanded everything down to 180 grit off camera. So we're just gonna set our piece right at those marks we made. We're just gonna pop a couple of brad nails in it just to hold it, and then we'll add some screws. My mom would absolutely love this thing. So we're just gonna add a couple of 2-inch screws to the back. We're gonna pre-drill because this cherry is super hard and will crack easily. That's dirty. All right, guys, we're gonna slap some finish on this thing. I'm gonna be using some shellac, and then I'll let that first coat dry, and I'll sand it down lightly with 220 by hand and add another coat of shellac, and then I'll take and sand that again with a 320 grit by hand, and then I'll add a coat of spray lacquer, and that will give it a homemade French polish. All right, so we've got our 2 coats of shellac on, and I sanded it down one last time with some 320 grit. We're just gonna be using the Minwax Spray Lacquer Clear Gloss. We'll let that dry up and meet you over at the workbench. So you'll notice that I customized mine quite a bit. Like, I only put a 30-degree angle on my shelf. They put a 60-degree angle on their shelf. I just didn't think that gave it enough shelf room, so I just wanted to add a little bit more shelf room, so I lessened my angle to a 30, which I think looks great. I also extended my shelf past my frame by 1 inch on either side, which I think gives it a great look. Mine's made out of cherry and cypress. I'm gonna go ahead, snap some photos of this thing and post it on Etsy. I'm gonna be asking $45 for this, and we'll see what happens. Now let's talk material cost. They have 2 of these listed, so we'll go ahead and base it off of building 2. For the 1x4 for the frames, your cost is about $6, and that's with pine. For the shelves, which look a bit thicker than the frame, they're probably a 5/4 board. So I would say 5/4 by 6, you'll need about $2 worth of a 5/4 by 6. And the big box stores will cut them down for you. For the mounting hardware, you're looking at around $150 to $250, depending on which kind of hardware you want to use. I'm actually going to be making my hardware, which I'm going to be doing a French cleat out of some plywood. And I'll show you that here at the end of the video. For the fasteners to fasten it together, about 50 cents worth of fasteners. I just so happen to have a Craig jig that I've already previously purchased. I think it is a good investment. They cost around 25 to 30 bucks depending on where you go. But I'll leave a link in the description from where I got mine. However, a Craig jig isn't quite necessary for this project. However, is nice to have. For the shipping, I entered all my information after I packaged my one into a box into my pirate shipping app. And I entered the zip code of 90210, which is on the opposite side of the country. And that shipping cost came out to $8 for standard shipping. So for 2 of them, you'll probably be looking around 12 to 13 bucks shipping. But definitely look into getting the pirate shipping app because you get major discounts. And I'm not plugging pirate shipping. I'm just trying to help y'all out. I am not sponsored by anybody. So all together, you're looking at about $20 to $22 to make these 2 geometrical shelves. They're asking $70 for 2 of these. And I really feel like that's a decent asking price. So you're looking at making a big ass profit, and those profit margins are straight up my alley. So I've got mine posted on Etsy and I'm asking 45 bucks. So we'll see how that goes. But I want to update y'all on a different item from a previous video that I just published. This item just sold while I was editing this video. So I wanted to go ahead and put this in this video and let y'all know that I got full asking price and I am super happy with it. I'm interrupting this video because it is December 27th, and I woke up this morning to head out to work. It's right now 5 a.m., and I got this notification on my phone. That thing sold overnight. That's probably the quickest I've ever sold something on Etsy. And I'm pretty sure it's nothing but luck. So I'm not complaining about it. That's 45 bucks straight to the bank, and I'll take it. Kick ass. I really hope y'all enjoy the content. And if you want to help support the content that I'm creating, become a member today. This is Bearded Viking Woodworks, and I have been Daniel. Until next time, get in the shop and make some sawdust. Thanks, guys. So for our French cleat, I'm going to be using a piece of scrap 1/2-inch cherry. That way it matches my shelf. So I'm just going to put a 45-degree bevel on one end. And then we'll do the same thing on this end. So I'm going to pull from my long point 2 inches and cut this square. And that will be attached to my actual shelf. So I wanted to show you all this. With it being a 60-degree angle here, it makes this pretty difficult to line up and not be visible through this side for my French cleat that goes on the wall. So I'm going to have to modify this thing. And what I'm going to do is use the 2-inch piece I just cut for the wall mount. And then I'm going to take this piece that attaches to my actual shelf, and I'm just going to scribe it right here. And I'm going to cut this piece off of here. That way you don't see anything protruding from the back side of my shelf. Okay, so yeah, I kind of like that. We'll go ahead and just pop a couple brads in this piece. I'm going to send this piece with some pre-drilled holes in it. That way they don't split it when they go to screw it into their stud. So let me demonstrate how this is going to hang. Okay, so this is going to hang from the wall like this. I'm going to be sending a 2-inch screw with this French cleat. So they'll need to find a stud in their wall. Then they'll want to hold this level and drive the screw in. And then this piece will attach just like this. That's awesome.